Hello everyone that's joined me for the second part of my videos that I've started doing on Fiddle TMD. As you'll see on the screen at the moment, you'll see a CAD design of the fiddle yard that I've built. I did post a picture on Facebook to show everybody kind of what I was doing this video session. I am going to try and make these video sessions as interesting and try and give you as much detail to what I'm doing as possible, and I will add in some pictures along the way. As you'll see now on the screen is a picture of my workshop with one of my old layouts that I started to build in there on my table saw. Main reason for showing you this picture is this is what the fiddle yard started out as, well, the baseboard for the fiddle yard. I designed the fiddle yard around the size of the work area that I had, so I just had to kind of clean up a bit of board, whack some pine to the bottom of it, and hey presto, baseboard for a fiddle yard. What you'll see now is a pair of pliers where I was extracting the nails from the old track that I'd put down on the old baseboard. Removing track from baseboards can be quite difficult at times, but I do find that if you persevere with it and go really slowly, you can actually get all the track up pretty well. What I would say is once you've checked for where your track pins are, have another look, because sometimes you'll miss them, and if you slide an old chisel underneath the track and there's a pin in there, then you're pretty much going to knacker the track up straight off. And I'll cut to the fiddle yard now and show you exactly what I've built over the past 2 days. Well, here's the final piece of my fiddle yard, which is looking kind of good. I think I've been fiddling with it all day, just trying to get the locomotives to roll over it and all the rolling stock to roll over all the points and joints that I've made. As you probably noticed, there's a lot of wires on it. It's the fact that every part of this track is segmented. Segmented? Well, it ain't a word, but I'll go with that. And the sections of the track obviously are all isolated. If you take the top corner where you can see the class 47, class 60 and class 08, the three roads there are all isolated by the points, so there's no need for switches or anything like that. So we'll start at the top of it. I decided that I needed three major parts of this layout, which was somewhere to store locomotives, which if you see this point here, the road leading upwards can store a locomotive at the top point where you see that class 37, and then another locomotive can be stored there with an isolating track, and then obviously the three locomotives that you see here, so I can store 5 locomotives at the top of my fiddle yard without actually having to take them off the track. The second bit was somewhere to store rolling stock, so what I decided was to try and measure out the baseboard and incorporate the 2 sidings to hold at least 60 centimeters worth of rolling stock, which off this point here you can see the 2 sidings where you can see the 4 wagons. The nice thing about it is that I can store them, run a locomotive from the locomotive holding point down just before the layout and back it onto a train of wagons and then roll it straight onto the layout. The third part of the layout I needed was somewhere to store a whole train, that's locomotives and rolling stock, when I take them off the layout. So this road here then leads into a split of 2 sidings which are 90 centimeters long, which is the maximum train length that I can put onto my layout. The problem was when I started putting the track together was, well, how do I move locomotives from these sidings to up into the storage yard, which then presented me with putting in this double point switch formation here between the 2 sets of sidings. So then I had to measure out the length all the way here to make sure that that was a minimum of 60, so then I could roll the locomotive straight up onto this isolating point, decouple it from the wagons and send it back down onto the other side of the layout. With the space that I was given, I had to put in this extra little bit of siding, which actually has come in really useful for setting up locomotives and sending them onto the track and onto the layout. Just a quick overview of the layout now that there's rolling stock on it. You can see that obviously there's a traffic jam up on the bridge. I've got a class 60 being held underneath the bridge, which is just a derelict siding. And this part of the layout, I'm still kind of wondering what to do with it, but at the moment it seems to just be a scrapyard. Here's my class 37 with the sea cows, a rake of 4 on there, which at some point I'm going to do a video featuring this one because I prefer to change the handrails over for guitar strings and cotton, because I think it looks a lot more effective than these plastic handrails that come with the locomotive. I'll just turn on the lights at the moment. I don't know if you can see inside my engine shed, but I have fitted the lights so they beam directly onto the locomotives that are held inside, where at the moment you can see my class 67 and 30 and another 37 at the top. Moving down the layout, obviously I've added a few bits and pieces. Another class 08 is on there. Again another class 08, and my 2 steel carriers custom built out of old, I believe it was Lima tankers that I bought off a well-known Facebook group for model railway trading, just for adults I think, or at least that's the way the admin likes to try and keep it. Going back to the fiddle yard, I think it's a really good success that I've done. Most of the track is soldered together to make sure there's no movement or anything like that, and again it's a completely recycled bit of equipment, so at least my layout is remaining pretty much from recycled bits and pieces. Even all the switches which have come off a different layout, which obviously doesn't correspond at the moment, I've just drawn letters underneath the switch and then just lettered the separate sections of the track. Thank you for watching this, and I shall try and keep you updated as soon as there's any more progress on my layout.
Keep the bass.